Today is January 15th, 2025. I am interviewing Kurt Esman at the Butler VA Medical Center. Mr. Esman is 63 years of age and was born on September 27, 1961. My name is Chuck Jennings. Mr. Esman, what branch of service were you in?
Army.
And what was the highest rank you achieved?
I was a Sergeant E5 and I was in a E6 slot.
And where did you serve, sir?
I served, well, I had basic in Fort Dix, AIT at Fort Knox. My first duty station was at Fort Hood. After that, they sent me over to Wiesbaden, Germany. Then I went to Baumholder, Germany. Then they finally sent me back here.
Before we get into the details of your service overseas and at home, where did you grow up?
Originally, I grew up in Pittsburgh, down in Oakwood.
And you attended high school there?
No. I was down there until 65. And went from there, went to Sarver. And then went in 72, we moved to the great outdoors there and north of Interstate 80.
So, what school did you graduate from?
That would have been Franklin High.
Okay. Did you do anything other than graduate school, hike, sports, or anything like that?
Basketball and track.
How'd you do in track?
I was a long distance runner.
Okay, well, after you graduated, did you find a job somewhere, or do you decide to enlist, or?
Going through school, I was also up in Vodtech. And I took automotive, diesel, and small engine.
So, did you find a job?
Oh yeah. In high school, I was working for a trucking company. So I was one of the fleet mechanics keeping the trucks on the road.
So what made you join the service?
Family obligation. Everybody in my family all goes in, both my brothers and sisters and my dad and my granddad. And eventually I was tapped on the shoulder.
So I know your dad was in the airborne
Yeah.
during World War II,
82nd.
the 82nd, and was in the book.
Those devils in baggy pants.
Yeah. So tell me, you enlisted in Butler, or you go down to Pittsburgh to enlist?
Down to Pittsburgh.
So you had any anticipation? Did you take tests to what you were going to try to get into?
Well, we went through ASVAB, and I scored so high I asked the recruiter what I was eligible for, and he's going anything I wanted. So I was always a mechanic since I was a little kid. I went in as a mechanic.
So where'd you go to your basic at?
That would be Fort Dix.
And during your basic, you were a runner, so you had been good lung shape, so
Oh yeah.
to do the PTs and the grinder and the climbing ropes. And did you
Yeah,
have any
that was-
particular trouble with anything?
None of that, no.
Okay.
My biggest trouble was the drill sergeants thinking they would get into your face yelling at you. But after having grown up with my dad, I just kept laughing.
So, at conclusion of your boot camp, your A school, where'd you go for that at?
I went down to Fort Knox.
Okay, and when you got to Fort Knox, well, you got some time off before going to Fort Knox, did you not?
Yeah, I used that, it was around Christmas time, and I volunteered to be a prison guard.
Okay, how did you, on base, volunteered, or?
And that allowed everybody to go home. And then whenever, after the holidays and everybody came back, I went on to Fort Knox.
Okay, so once you arrived at Fort Knox, what was your first impression, or what, did you have anything in your mind about what Fort Knox was gonna be, or?
I thought it was going to be a lot of fun. And whenever I went down there, they were doing an experiment with, if you were a real fast learner, the slow guys didn't hold you up. Yeah, and you can challenge any of the courses that you were taking. Growing up with diesels and, automotives and small engine, I just challenged everything. I ended up with multiple MOSs. And the last thing that I did there was recovery, where I ran all the different records.
Now, I can't remember the name of it. It's real long, has a blade in the front. Were you on that one?
The M88?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, later on, I ended up with 2 of those. And those were my little pride and joys.
Yeah, they go into description about them, those things, they can do anything.
Those were what they call tank retriever. If you ever seen the pictures of a tank stuck all the way up to its turn, yeah, those were the ones that would pull it out. I got to use them quite a bit down at Fort Hood. One lieutenant left a 113 go into the water, and I ended up going swimming to go hook the cables up to it.
I know you could put the blade down and
Yep.
reverse, pull things out. It's an amazing machine.
Yeah, they weighed, the A1 weighed 56 ton and can lift twice its weight. The A2 weighed 78 ton and can lift twice its weight. So you're talking vehicles that can lift, deadlift from the ground up, over 100,000.
So, once you finally got on to that, what are some of the other vehicles, the recovery vehicles you work with?
I worked with the 548s, the M35 wrecker, and the goer. The goers were so large they had to have a wrecker by himself, and that was just to change the tire.
So, how long was your A school? 6 weeks or 8 weeks?
8 weeks. But I challenged most of everything that I went through. Some of my classes were only a week long, some were 4 days long. And they wouldn't let me move on to my duty station, so I became a TA, trainer's assistant. And I ended up helping the slow kids after all. But yeah, I grew up working on engines and that since I was 8 years old. So, going through high school and then going into the Army. I came out as a wheel mechanic, track mechanic, howitzer mechanic. Pretty much if it had wheels and tracks, I worked on it.
You already knew you were going to be up to your nubbies and dirt and mud.
Oh, yeah. And, it's, like I said, growing up in a military family, I was used to all the trials and tribulations that would be coming with it. We just didn't have a war at that particular moment.
So, after completion of A school, did you go home or where'd you go to from there?
I went right from there to Fort Hood.
And how long were you there?
I was there from 82 to 83. Then I got orders to, we had a warrant officer who was going to Fort Stewart, to build a artillery unit there. And he wanted me to come and take over as the motor officer, motor sergeant. And I got ordered for Germany instead.
So, were you looking forward to Germany, or?
Well, by the time that I was getting ready to go to Germany, I was already involved in a serious accident. Putting a power pack in an armored personnel carrier. I had the sling break, and I was underneath of it. And so by the time that I was going to Germany, I had to learn new MOSs because I got away from working on the vehicles. I became a truck driver and a parts clerk.
So let's go into your taking out of the transmission. What happened?
They misset the engine. Normally I have a crew that I always use for engine pulling. And this particular day they were busy on another job and I got impatient and I grabbed a crew that just came out of school. In fact, they weren't even in my unit for 3 days, 4 days. And we were pulling the engine, they were setting the engine in, and they were too busy talking and carrying on, they misset the engine. So I told them to quit bullshitting, watch me pull the engine completely out, we're gonna line it up and set it down correctly. And they didn't do what I told them, the engine started swinging. And I grabbed hold of the back of the engine and I swung it forward so it would clear everything. Whenever that happened, the engine popped up about 7 feet. And that motion there threw me into the engine compartment. And that's when the swing let go.
So, how long were you in the hospital and what did you have to go through?
Oh, I was in the hospital for weeks, months. It tore up from here all the way down. I lost a lung and it screwed up both my legs.
Now, after you got that, how long did you go to rehab then for all this? You're still rehabbing?
Yeah, I'm still rehabbing, but I can still get up and move, or I just force myself. And I had to sign a lot of waivers just to still stay in. And I told them, I said, I had too many MOSs. By that time, I probably had 6 or 7 MOSs. You know, that I had more to give. And they acknowledged my request to still stay in. And then that's what won over to Germany.
Now, because I know you hear from the VA, I know what you've gone through, but what made you want to stay in and just not take a medical?
All my family was out there ribbing me that they went through wars without getting a scratch. I go through peacetime and damn near get killed.
And that's the truth, you about died.
And yeah, it's that, and like I said, I still had jobs to do. I'm still capable of staying in. And I ended up becoming a parts clerk, which the mechanics all thought that was great because somebody who knew what they needed. In fact, because of that, when we went through an inspecting general, I was the only one in our groups to pass. Everybody else failed. Whenever I went in, I saw how the Army ran their system, and I completely changed it. It made it more efficient, and easier to do. There was no more pulling your hair and everything. And we had an inspecting general that he came in, sat beside me. Evidently, he got they told him what happened to me, and I still stayed in. And we started going through my paperwork, and mechanics were still coming in and going out, and they were ordering parts correctly, unlike the other units. And my setup was like an L shape, and then my microfiche was right behind me. And it made it so simple that I had open books. And you can look on the book and know that there was actually 3 starters or 2 generators instead of taking a guess, which is what the other units were doing. They were guessing. I had a custom built perch truck that mirrored like my office. And you can go into the perch truck with the number 22, and if there's supposed to be 3 in there, there was 3 up in the 22 bin. And it went on to the point where it made it so easy. The system was so easy versus the Army way. That the general was actually smiling when he left, and then he wanted all the other batteries to duplicate what I made. And I was always the kind that I went my own way, and now everybody's following me. And but if it helps everybody, you know. And I was doing that, and I ended up becoming 4th Infantry was getting their color stricken, and they were sending everything back to the States. And my job was to get all the vehicles steamed and painted, and we had to scrape everything. So whenever they went back to the States, they looked like brand new. And we had 2 crews set up, one during the day and one at night. The night would work the whole night shift, the day would work the whole day shift. And they were trying to paint everything with a brush, and I got them spray cans. You know, I pulled strings and got the cans in so they could shoot them, which made it a lot easier and a better product. And but yeah, it was. We finally got that 4th one back to the States, but the people didn't.
Yeah, let's talk about life in Germany and what it was like. So, were you what, 12 hours on, 12 hours off? I know you at the one point you probably were.
Yeah, at when we were de-escalating the 4th, we were doing 12 on, 12 off, and that was basically 7 days a week.
But the earlier part.
The earlier parts I spent out in the woods. In fact, the first day I got there, I did my in-processing, and then they introduced me to Grafenberg my second day. And I spent so much time between Grafenberg, Volkville, and then we would go up north to Fulda Gap. And then we would come back in for maybe a week to get restocked, replenished, and then we were back out again. And we'd go out for another 90 days. And of course, it seemed like every time we came in, somebody was getting a divorce. But yeah, we pretty much lived out in the woods. And when the 4th disbanded, they scattered everybody from the 4th everywhere. And I ended up with the 316 artillery at Baumburger. I was there for about 3 days, and I got orders from DeVordy, Division Artillery, to show up there. And, yeah, Division Artillery, we were out there with them this whole year. Anytime that a battery would go out, DeVordy was sending a support group out. So we were constantly everywhere around Germany. And
I'm sure you got the chance to go out and drink some beer and relax a little. So, was there any of those times?
not really. Anytime I wanted to go to Munich, they always made sure I was going to the field. We would drive by and they'd say, wave. And I drove the division captain. He was a city boy. Never went pony hopping before, and I introduced him to it. And he, whenever I was at the 8th, I was in charge of all the vehicles getting inspected to go off base. I was also in charge of recovery, and we had 10 records total. It was like 2 of each. And if a vehicle broke down, I had to figure out what kind of vehicle it was to send the right record. Then I had to escort the wrecker out and back. And if it was an accident, I played OSHA. I had to do an investigation on what happened. You know, was it driver, was it mechanical, was it the other guy? And yeah, they, going through the inspection, I had a nickname of Dr. Deadline. I get the people coming in going, I got a great Jeep, or I got a great truck, you can't find nothing on it. And I would usually find 4 pages, including the journals. And bomb holder wasn't too bad. One thing about bomb holder was when you walked out the front door, you were either walking up a hill or down a hill. If it was a 3-story floor when you're looking at it, if you walked around back, you usually find it was a 5-story. You know, because half of it's buried in the ground. And I really felt sorry for some of the soldiers because they were running up and down hills in full muck gear.
Oh, God. So, how did you deal with your pain issues during this period of time? I mean, I know when I first met you here, and the pain issues that you dealt with and had. How'd you deal with that? I know you're a lot younger back then, but.
One of my guys in 88 was, his granddad was one of those in a temple, and they taught him all different studies, Tai Chi, and that's what he taught me, was Tai Chi to help block the pain. That's why if you could see me spacing out, yeah, I'm trying to block the pain. Even to this day, my pain levels, after all the surgeries that I've had over the last couple of years, it's still up in 8. And my biggest thing is I have nonstop migraines. And that sort of takes all the fun out of everything.
So once you completed your tour in Germany, you came back to the States?
Yeah.
I assume you flew both ways?
Yeah, I flew both ways. Going out, I rode in a military plane and broke my butt off. You know, those were you strapped yourself into a seat on the side of the wall. Coming back, I found out that I could take a civilian flight, and I dressed in civilian clothes coming back. whenever I came back, I had to do all mail processing at Fort Dix. And because I came back early, they needed another security guard for the walk-in. And while I was waiting for all my medical and all my paperwork to finally catch up, I stood on the wall over at the prison. Yeah.
So, from your outcome of your service, what do you think you gained from it? Besides pain and migraine?
Yeah, usually the best officers were the ones that went up as enlisted and crossed over into officers. We had one that was a second lieutenant that came out of school. And I asked him, I said, what did you major in school? And he was such a doofus. He taught zoology. I told him, I said, great, go back and lead some primates and leave me alone. We had our colonel and our warrant officer wanted me to become a warrant. And I looked at him and said, God, no. You know, I didn't like officers to begin with, and to become one, it would be totally against me. What did I take away from it? Doing things completely the Army way. The Army way sucked. And there was a lot of things that I seen that I can adapt or do differently to get the job done faster and better than doing it the Army way. And I did some of those. There was a magazine called PMS. I was in it several times with different changes that I can make to the vehicles. And they ended up incorporating them in today's vehicle. It took a mechanical mind to do it. You know, somebody who actually worked on it, not sat back and just designed it.
Was it on CAD? So when you got back home, you processed, did you go back home or?
Yeah, I went back home, and I think about the day I walked into the house, the phones were ringing off the hook that reserve units wanted me. And I ended up picking the reserve unit behind the VA. I went from years of division artillery to field engineers. And they loved it. I didn't, but they did.
How many years did you spend in the reserves?
About a year.
Why did you, other than, yeah?
They figured my condition just got worse, and they went ahead and medically retired me. And, you know, I got retired like I had 20 years of reserves. So afterwards, I got jobs where it was a little easier on me. One of them was I was a car salesman. Then I got into antiques, collectibles, and restoration. And I found that doing restoration was relaxing. To be able to go and see a piece that's in 10 coats of paint and visualize what it looks like done, and then do it and have it come out done. Through Dan Hardesty up in Franklin at the Wild West, my work ended up in like 8 museums.
So then your condition became so much worse that you basically retired, basically.
Yeah, the spine collapsed in about 2007, 8. And it got to the point where they thought I was gonna end up back in a wheelchair again. And I ended up coming down here to the VA for months on end, just trying so I can walk again. And they had me doing aqua therapy at a TMS in Cliftonbury, Road City. And they had an aqua pool. And I was in that pool almost every day for 3 years, just so I could get back to walking again. And so I tell anybody that's got any kind of serious injuries, aqua therapy with the heated pools is one of the best ways to go around.
I know you used to wear, your title was Turtle Man. Everybody see you here. You had a shell that supports your...
I was in that for close to about 30 years. It was big, heavy chest plate armor. And everybody called me either Iron Man or Turtle.
Now, I know you later began surgery with metal in your back.
Yeah.
Uh,
They, just before COVID, they went ahead and replaced about a third of my spine. New process that we worked with Dr. Moosey, who's top-notch doctor. And they brought in a specialist from California. And they went and they replaced all this stuff through here. And it's new discs, broad plates. And it allowed me to get out of that armor, which I didn't realize how heavy that thing was. It weighed like 25 pounds. Also kept me warm too. Never knew how cold it was whenever I was wearing it.
So, is there anything else that you would like to add at this point?
Well, I've been working with training service dogs. This is Rosie. She's my PSA dog for my night terrors at night. We also have another one, Cooper, that his training is a little slower than hers, but they're both progressing well. And then I've been working with you on veteran issues programs.
Now, there are other problems besides the medical problems that you've gone through, and the VA has helped you with some other problems with.
Yes.
You want to go into that a little bit?
Well, on top of all the physical, which I've gone through many surgeries on, I relive my accident every night. You know, every night, whenever I close my eyes, I have an engine keep falling on me. And that's one of her jobs, is to help me with that. It's actually in like 3D. I can smell the grease, I can taste it. You know, it's like somebody transported me back into time, and I keep reliving that over and over and over and over.
Now, have you gone to any PTSD classes here?
Yeah, I've attended a couple here, and they've asked if I've ever gone and tried changing my dream. And I said, yeah, I tried throwing the cruise under the engine, and it still blinds me. And I'm on my 18th therapist over the years. They either keep leaving or retiring. And
Has the VA helped you at all with your PTSD issues?
very little. It's just so traumatic that my mind is not letting go. And now their surgeries have helped. You know, was going through, they did 8 surgeries on my arms and hands, and like I said, they've done my neck and upper back. They're afraid to go after the lower back, it's still so screwed up. And I said, yeah, that's the one that causes both my legs to go numb. And but yeah, I've seen the therapist, pain group therapy, and a lot of them have never been through what I've gone through. So evidently I've helped a couple of them. I've run across some civilians whenever I'm doing my photography that I've told my story to, and it's helped them. I've had people asking if I should be a motivational speaker. And whenever I meet people, that's motivational speaker. So I keep throwing myself into doing stuff helping veterans. You know, coming from a military family, veterans are all my family. And, you know, it's one of the things why I helped you with your project, and I'm going to start writing a book. And but yeah, I relive that nightmare every night.
Yeah, I know you speak to some veterans. Has it helped you doing that about your physical and mental problems over the PTSD? Do you find it being helpful at all to you?
Yeah, it's whenever I got home, both of my parents were ill. And Dad had multiple strokes, and Mom was going through cancer. I put everything me aside and took care of them for 25 years. And it's like trying to help somebody else, ignoring me and helping somebody else.
Refocusing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot what I do. But, so, do you believe there's an end goal at the end, light at the end, that you will be able to eventually deal with this in a better manner or better
I don't know
outcome
about
for
that.
yourself?
I don't know about that. I've had people that used to say what happened to me was because of my mom, which I don't respect them for that. You know, because my mom didn't go to church continuously. She had an altar set up in the house instead. I wondered who I pissed off in a previous life, but you know, it's one of those that if we get recycled and come back, that's probably what I would prefer. You know, to come back, not to have an engine for.
Well, at this point, I would like to thank you for your service and the pain that you've gone through your service. I've known you for a number of years and I've seen all the pain that you've gone through. Thank you very much.
Thank you.